So that's a good segue. And the last question I wanted to ask you. This is not about the convention, so we can take the anger down a notch. It's all good.
Oh, thank God, the tension.
So there's a guy that's running for Senate who I've actually interviewed on the show. His name's Dan Osborn. I'm sure you're familiar with him.
Yes, I love Dan Osborn.
So
Yes.
Dan Osborn decided about a month ago, he said, I'm going to run my campaign totally independent, and I don't want the endorsement of any party. And Jane Klebe, I just call her dumb bitch. She came out, and the chair of the state Democratic Party, and she threw a hissy fit. And we read the whole thing, the whole tweet where she sounded like a 16-year-old girl on Facebook whose boyfriend wasn't texting her back. And we read the whole tweet out and just absolutely crying, throwing a fit about how Osborn led the Democratic Party on. And he lied to them and used their resources knowing he was never going to take their endorsement. And there were other implications later on that he did the same thing to you guys. Did you ever get that vibe that was the case?
No. So he came to North Platte and he asked, well, back up. He came to our convention.
Yeah.
And asked if he could have a table. And we said, of course. And he paid for the table fee and he was there and I met him. And then he came to North Platte to talk with the railroad workers because they are someone who did back him because he's a union guy and they're union. And that's a whole nother thing. So he came to North Platte, and I felt personally that any time a political entity comes here, if I have the invitation or the opportunity, being the chair, I should go and meet them. So I did. He is incredibly based. He really knows what he's talking about. He chose to be independent because he does not want to run with anybody else's rules on him. He doesn't want to have to be told that he has to be red, blue, libertarian. When I was there, he asked for my support as far as like if I felt personally, I could take a sign or I could do these things. He paid for my dinner and a drink because I took the time to come out there. Unbelievably cool guy, very based on what he had to say. He never propositioned or asked for an endorsement in any way. He talked about working together if we had things that crossed over. He was great. I did hear that night from other people about the Democrat bullshit, and she's a crazy lady, and she's just a typical Dem. Like, she just is. You're saying she's crying a 16-year-old girl, and I'm like, yeah, checks off. Like,
she is insufferable. Just some of the things she says on Twitter. And I remember she used to call into my boss, Chris Baker. She used to call into his show all the time, and I would hear her on there, and it was just the absurdity of it all. But no, I figured that was going to be your answer because based on my, albeit limited, communication with him, I could see them getting some mixed messages because, like you said, he is a really nice guy. And maybe they interpreted that as him stringing them along, but that wasn't the case at all. I didn't get the vibe. And now she's saying they're going to run a write-in candidate against him. I'm like, hold on. So you were ready to endorse him because you obviously agreed with him in principle. So you were ready to endorse him until he said, hey, I don't want your endorsement. Now you're going to kneecap him and basically cost him the election. So it was never about principles to her. It was about winning and scoring points. That's basically the vibe I got from it. Because if it were about principle, she would have had the same approach that you did, which was, hey, he's not going to run with our party. It's cool. He wants to be independent, but I think he's better than Deb Fischer, so I'm going to endorse him. But she didn't do that. So that tells me all I need to know about her.
Yeah, and honestly, as a libertarian through and through, an anarchist in many ways as well, I will vote for Dan Osborn as an independent. He makes so many things. Do I agree on everything? No, but the things I do not agree on are not things that I think are morally corrupt to the point of needing to run. I like Dan. I would support Dan. I have a sign. Like, I really like Dan Osborn. I really do. And he's a nice guy, but not politician nice. He's very
nice human.
Guy.
That was the vibe I got, was that he's very human. And no, it's like, I don't agree with him on a lot of things, but I think Fischer is a swamp creature that's no better than the Bidens and the Dan Crenshaws and the Pelosi's of the world, and I think she needs to go. And if
she crawled out of the same bog.
She did. And if someone better runs in 6 years and I want to vote for them over Osborn, then so be it. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But I would rather, if we're going to take a swamp creature down, I would rather do it with an independent like him that maybe I agree with on 60% of the issues than a Democrat who I'm going to agree with on 15%. That's my logic behind it. So I think Fischer's got to go.
I completely agree, and I think the percentage thing may sound silly, but I agree. I think that the Libertarian Party needs to remember that we agree on probably 95% of the things.
Yep.
Pick a thing, we probably agree. The other part of it, once we are at the point where we can actually win on a consistent basis and we can fight about that then. But right now, we need to focus on what we agree on so we can grow the party as big as we can because we're playing tiny little side of the field compared to the other guys, and having them take us serious enough to show up was a major victory.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, be sure to click the link in the description to get the full episode on Rumble. If you prefer to listen along, you could actually get us on Spotify, Spreaker, and iHeartRadio. You can also go to www.outlawstreamers.com to learn more about not just my show, but tons of other great shows and all the exciting projects they have coming up. Follow my socials at Caleb Isn't Funny on Twitter and Instagram, at Caleb Salvatore Comedy on the Chinese Spy app that is TikTok, and be sure to like and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Thanks, and we'll see you every Saturday for brand new episodes of That's Based. Peace.